Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 64th lesson in this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we'll begin setting up our fog of war. I expect this will either take 2 or 3 videos to complete, and in this video all we're doing is creating the material and the actor that will serve as our fog. I will say there are better ways to go about this, and in fact I'll give you a hint at one. Instead of using an actor, you're going to want to do this with a decal. However, I cannot teach that version due to the fact I will be using that version in a marketplace product, and Epic has some stringent rules about using items that are available in public tutorials in marketplace products. All of that said, fire up your editor and let's get started.
And welcome back to the editor. And in this video, as I mentioned in the intro card, we'll be starting our Fog of War. However, I need to point out once again that this version of Fog of War isn't the best version out there. And the reason I'm not including the best version is simply because I plan to use that in something I'm going to be putting in the marketplace, hopefully in the next few months. And there's some rules about including stuff that you put in public tutorials or that are available in public tutorials. Now that said, this Fog of War does work. It is a bit resource intensive, and it's meant more as proof of concept, so you can learn how this kind of material works. That said, if you're interested in a better approach, here's a little bit of a pointer. You're going to want to use decals instead of actors like we're about to do. All right, all of that said, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go up into your RTS folder and go into your textures. The first thing I want you to do here is I want you to create a render target. So right click, go to materials and textures, and we're going to create a render target. This will be RT underscore fog of war. And just open it up and save it. That's all we have to do with this. We'll come back to this in a minute actually. The next thing I want you to do is go to your materials section, or your materials folder, if I can get the right thing open. And in your materials folder, we're going to create 2 new materials. The first one will be the fog of war. So let's just do m underscore fog of war. And the other one will be our subtraction. So create a second element, will be m underscore subtraction. Actually, yeah, subtraction of fog. All right, let's start with the fog of war. Now, I'm going to not pin it up there just yet. I'm going to go back into my textures folder, and I'm going to grab that render target from earlier, and I'm just going to bring it into here. Now, I'm going to pin this up here now, and let's get started. Now, before we go any further with this step, and this is step 1, setting up our materials and textures, I am not the best at this content, so I might not explain this to the same depth that I have explained other material before. So I apologize about that in advance. We're just going to leave this down here for a bit. We're going to start up here and holding down the 1 button. I'm going to click on the screen. I'm just going to open this preview up, make sure it's black. It is, so it is what I'm looking for. And I'm going to drag off of this, and I'm just going to bring this into my base color here. Actually, speaking of which, I skipped a step. Let's go to our base color, and we need to change this to surface, which it already is, and to translucent, because we want to be able to see through it partially. And you're going to want to play around with some of the variables to get it to work how you want it to work, and I'll tell you which ones you're going to want to play around with. So we're going to want to take this value, and we're going to want to multiply it by our texture sample. So just like a normal blueprint, I'm going to put a reroute in. I'm going to drag off of it and type in multiply. Not multiple, sorry, multiply. And I'm going to take from the RGB here on my texture sample, which is our render target, and put it into the B. Now, some people recommend clamping each time you do this. I haven't clamped this before, so I'm not sure how that would work. I am slightly curious, but I don't know enough on textures to say if clamping this makes sense. What I am going to do, however, is I'm going to just actually lower this a tiny bit. Actually, I'm going to lower this down so I have a little bit more room. Put another reroute in here. and I'm going to hold down the 3 button and click here. And I'm going to promote this to a parameter. This is just like making it a variable. And this parameter will be fog mask intensity. It's the easiest way I can describe it. It's really just the fog mask itself. Now, with this one, this is the value. Actually, I lied. I'm not going to make that a parameter. I don't want the alpha channel. The parameter gives you the alpha channel. I do not want that. Anyway, holding 3 down again, I've clicked on the screen. This is the one sort of variable that you might want to mess around with. You want your color closer to white because this is acting like a mask. So you can either go all ones. I have gotten this to work at 0.9 before on all 3 of these, but with 0.9, for some reason on the test file, it was too translucent. And I only got it to really work well with full ones. That said, I don't know why that is, why it worked well with 0.9 on some of them, and then 0.1s on this one. Sorry, with ones only on this one in this project. So yeah, take from that what you will. We're going to want to interpolate these 2 colors to blend them together. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to type in interp. Actually, we're just going to type in lerp. And we want linear interpolate. And we're just going to take that, plug this result into the beta there. And our alpha channel will come from our texture sample. We're just going to plug that into there. And I'm going to put a reroute in so it's just a little bit easier to follow. Let's take a look at what we get when we do that. We get that white channel, which is what we're looking for there. And this will go into our opacity because that's our mask. And I'm just going to see if I can line this up a bit better. There we go. Move that down just a tiny bit. Move that in closer. There we go. So that takes care of our fog of war material. Now let's take care of our subtraction from fog of war material once it's finished saving. These can take a bit to save due to the compilers of the shaders, that is. So let's go back to our materials folder. Let's open up the reduction or subtraction of fog. And what we're going to do here is we are going to get a texture coordinate or a text chord. So if you type in texture chord, you open it up, you'll see this pretty little set of colors. And what we're going to do from this is we are going to take away from it a few channels. So we're going to type in subtract. And what we're going to take away from it is a draw location. Sorry, not a draw location. That's what we're going to name it. And it's very important you remember this name for the next video, by the way. Whatever you name this next thing we're about to create, you need to remember the name. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down 3. We are going to convert this one to a parameter, and you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to name this draw location because this is where we're going to be drawing this particular reduction to or from. So what's going to be passed into here is the value that we are, the location at which we're drawing. This will be a text coordinate in the end, so to speak. Again, not sure how to best explain this, so I apologize. Now, the settings I have found that work best are a red of 0.5, a green of 0.5, and a blue of 0.5. I have done both with alpha at 1 and alpha at 0. I have noticed very little difference between the two. Both work perfectly fine in my opinion, so I'm just going to leave the alpha at 1. If it doesn't work in the next video, then I'll be reducing this to 0. Most likely if it doesn't work, I've also forgotten to hit trace complex, and the trace will be doing. Now, we've done that. We aren't going to plug directly into here. We are going to mask our R and G channels, so our red and green channels. And we're going to take that, and we're going to plug it into there. So we get this black box. That's what we really want. That's the area that things will be removed from. And that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, we want the length of this. So to get the length, we're going to get a vector, because it's a 3-point vector, length. And we're going to just return the v2 length. We don't care about the v3 length. But before we do that, I'm just going to hold down the 1 key, type up there, and I'm going to create a new singular variable. And I'm going to just put 1.0 in it. And I'm going to subtract from 1 this length, which will give us that white cover we're looking for now. The next step is we are going to subtract from this, because now we need to go back to black. So remember, the goal is to get this from white to black. So all we're doing now is converting this white over to a black. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to take away from this. Now, we have a few bits of math to do before we get to that stage. So I'm just going to pull back because we need a little bit more room still and move this over here. So we're going to take a new variable. It will be a single point variable, so holding down 1, and we're going to convert to parameter. And this will be our draw size. And we are going to set the default value of this parameter to 0.01, the min to 0, and the max to 1. And we're going to take from this a 1 minus. So if we look at it, we're getting that sort of gray color. It's not really important, but we get this, again, this white color. And we're subtracting this white from white, which if we open this up, gives us that nice black that we're looking for. And just plug a reroute into this because I need to come off of here for some more stuff. And I'll worry about what comes off of there in just 1 second, because there is what we're going to plug this into is going to be related to what comes off of here. So now we are going to clamp this result, and we do want to clamp it 0 to 1. So we're not going to change the min or max. We're not going to worry about that at all. Again, just need a little bit more room. We are going to divide our draw size by this clamped value. So to do that, all you do is you type in divide, and you come off this draw size, and you plug it into our divide there. Let's put another reroute in to make it nice and neat. Now, there is a step I skipped. We can move this closer now. That's the end of the maths part of this. This, our main sort of box here, needs to be surface, additive, and it needs to be unlit. And this will go into our emissive color. And let's just line that up a little bit with that. And how the heck did that get so messed up? What did I fail to move properly? It was probably the draw size. Sorry about that. Just cleaning this up a tiny bit. All right, let's save this. I said you need to remember that location, that name for the next video. I lied to you. It's actually this video. So now what we're going to do, let's go back to our main window. Let's go to our blueprints folder. And in our blueprints folder, let's create a new folder called Fog of War. And in our Fog of War folder, we're going to create a new blueprint actor. And this will be BP_Fog of War. All right, so I'm going to replace our default scene route with my preferred scene. I'm not going to rename it, just drag it there. Next, I'm going to grab a plane. And this plane, I'm going to name Fog. Now, the material for my fog will be my M Fog of War material. Okay, there we go. We have our black material. Now our scale, don't worry about the Z, only worry about the X and Y. And these two values should be the same. Now you might want to play around with them to see what the effect is. We're going to set it to 250. We do want to generate overlap events. We might play more with the collision features in the next video or two. I haven't quite decided because there are a few things we can do with that. But we'll take care of that later on. The next step is we're going to go over, let's compile first. Let's go over to our event graph. We can get rid of our event begin actor overlap and our event tick. Dragging off your begin play, we want to create a dynamic material instance. You do not want the one with the word fog in there. And this will be our subtraction of fog. We are going to name this. So promote to variable, and this will be fog subtraction. We are going to want to clear our render target on begin play. Now, if you're including saves, you're going to want to mess with this a bit because this is going to reset the fog each time somebody comes in. So you might want to actually have a save related information instead of this. And what we're clearing is the render target for the fog of war. As we see when we play the game, the render target is going to end up having holes in it. Those holes are where people are seeing through the fog. So again, you might want to have something else here for when you're reloading a saved game. Next, we are going to create a custom event, and this will be subtract from fog. Our custom event is going to have one input, and this input will be our vector conversion. It's going to be of type vector 2D. Now the conversion actually happens afterwards, but we'll take care of that in a second. Let's grab our fog subtraction here, get it. From it, we want to set vector parameter value. Plug the execute pin into there. Now this is the name we need to have match this. So I'm just going to be lazy, even though I know it's draw location. I'm just going to copy and paste the parameter name into there. The value we have to convert, and the way we're going to convert that is, well, I think we can do to vector, and then we're going to take this to vector, and we're going to plug it into here, which will take it and multiply it by a float, and we should leave this value as 0.0 for now. Let's see if I can line these up all nicely, but no, it's not letting me. There we go. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually add this to our fog subtraction. So whatever is coming into here, we need to add into our fog subtraction. So we're setting the parameter value of our draw location. So if we go back here, what's happening is we're actually setting this value. So we're setting the location, which will still turn out to be white. We convert it over to this black. We keep it at the proper black, and it will remove from the mask that we're using. So to do that, we drag off the execute, type in draw material to render target, and our render target will be our RT fog of war, and our material will be our fog subtraction there. I'm going to say material subtraction instead of fog subtraction. There we go. Now, let's test our fog of war, make sure it works. The settings I am using for my placement of my fog of war are based upon the meshes I'm using and some changes that I will make in a later video. And those changes relate to the player controller. And I'll show you why those changes are important. Alright, so we're going to grab our fog of war material. As you can see, we're already having some weirdness, and that's because we don't have it at the right location. Now, we are going to set this at approximately 600 on the Z. Okay, 620 on the Z. You can probably move back to 600 for a second. That issue there is why we want it slightly above. So we're going to set it to 620. If we hit play, we can't see anything. Ooh, we have the little health bar showing up there from our factory. Yeah, this setting worked perfectly fine at 600 in my test file. 700 it is. There we go. Now we can't see anything. However, like I said, we need to worry about the camera. Now the size of this, like you can see outside of there, is a bit of a problem. So you can worry about the sizing of it, scaling of it as you need. But the issue that I was referring to, related to the camera, we can go under the fog. We can even, when we're near the fog, pan through it. So I'm panning through it right now, as you can tell. By the way, the camera is rotating as we come back out. And I'm now zooming out, and I'm zooming back in. So we'll need to change our zoom settings and our pan settings for the camera to work at its most optimal. Alternatively, we can also change where the camera pawn is placed in our world. However, that is because of what we have to do in the next video. All we are going to do in that. So step 1 was setting up our materials. Step 2 was setting up the actor. Actually, I lied. There is a third step, and I think it's a great spot to end the video. What we're going to do next is go into our settings, go into your project settings. So this is a third and final step. And this is going to make sense why we're doing it in this video to a lot of people, I think, because it only really matters for the next set. We're going to go to our collision. Oh, sorry, not our collision. I lied to you. We might add stuff into our collision later on. We might add in a new trace channel, but that we'll worry about later. It's rendering, I think, we care about. I always forget where this is located. Yep, it's rendering. So in rendering, type in UV or go down to optimization. And what we want to do is we want to support UV, so that's our 2D vector coordinates, from hit results. This will allow us, when we do certain line tracing, to properly see where that line is. What this is doing is it allows what we're going to pass into here. I didn't realize I was still running. We're passing into here to work correctly. So we're going to pass them. We're going to call this function from other blueprints, such as our units. And without this ticked, while it'll pass through, there's going to be no value that's coming in. All right. That said, make sure you do your restart, and I will have another video up for you guys. That said, as well, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button down below. It really does help out this series. Ooh, I hit the wrong thing. In addition, make sure to hit the subscribe and notify icon so you know when the next video is out. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.